Welcome back, super friends. Today we're going to focus on powers of 10, which means exponents. So we're going to do that little bit of review. That way you have some notes to help you with answering your questions. You will need a math notebook, a folder. You will need a pencil, and don't forget that super brain. Okay, friends, in this video we are going to focus on powers of 10 when it comes to place values. So this is going to be our exponents powers of 10 chart, and we will go over how to use it, what it means, what having place value means, and how to use place value when it comes to decimals. So that's what we'll do. Powers of 10. And I'll also put a little slash for exponents. Okay, so looking at our chart, on the left-hand side, we have our exponents. On the right-hand side, we have the value of the exponent. So 10 to the 0 power, that's basically saying that we're having 10 and we're going to multiply it by nothing, basically. Normally, it should look like a 0 because nothing times anything is nothing, which means 0. But in this case, what I like to think of it as, it's a 10 without a 0 in it, which is a little confusing, but maybe not. A 10 without a 0 in it looks like what? It looks like the number 1 because it just has the number 1 with no 0. So that's how you can remember 10 to the 0 power equals the number 1. 10 to the first power is saying that you have a 10 with 1 0 in it. And what does that look like? Just like a regular 10. It has a 1 with a 0 after it. 10 to the second power, that looks like a 10 with 2 zeros after it, or a 1 with 2 zeros after it. That's what it will look like. 10 to the third, that's 1,000. 10 to the fourth, that's 10,000. 10 to the fifth, that's 100,000. 10 to the sixth, that's 1 million. That's as far as we go up. In fifth grade, we can go as far as we need to. If we need to do 10 to the 100th power, then we could do that. And it would just be a 1 with 100 zeros after it. But in this case, we're only going up to the 6th power, which is a million. Now, we are going to scroll down to see exactly what it means to use powers of 10. And when we're multiplying, when we're going to multiply by powers of 10, that means that we are going to move our decimal, because we will have a decimal. You might not see it all the time, but there will be a decimal there. We are going to move the decimal point to the right. Now, this is different from moving place values. If we're talking about moving the decimal point, you're simply moving the decimal point. If we're talking about moving place values, then we're doing something different. So let's focus only on moving decimals. Now, at this time, our problem said 1.25 times 10 to the second power. So what I would do is I move my decimal point out of the way to the right, because that's what we're supposed to do when we multiply by powers of 10. And there's the decimal there. We move it to the right. We're moving it as many times as the exponent says, or as many times as we see the number 0. So I turned it into a 100 down here, and that 100 has 2 zeros in it. So I'm moving my decimal point 2 places to the right, and it goes there. And you see in our answer now that number is 125. Let's do another one. We have 3.86, and we'll end it with the 7. So 3.867 times 10 to the second power. So now dealing with that, I like to convert my exponent into the value, which the value would be 100 because it has 2 zeros in the exponent. We're still multiplying, so bring that down, and then I bring down my decimal number. Okay, so now I get to move this decimal point out of the way. I am going to move it to the right because I'm multiplying, so it's going to go this way, and I'm going to move it as many zeros as I see, which is 2 right here. 2 zeros, so 2 places. 1, 2. Move the decimal 2 places out of the way. So now my answer looks like 386.7. This is where our answer looks like. So since we were multiplying, we move to the right. Now when we're dividing, let's go back to green. Now when dividing by powers of 10, we move the decimal point to the left. Okay, so for our example, let's use the same example that we used up top, but this time we're dividing. So let's say 3.867 divided by 10 to the first power. So doing that, remember, I like to change my exponent into a value. That way I can see it clearly. So that's just going to look like 10 because I'm going to have a 1 with 1 0 after it. I'm still dividing. So I bring down my division. And then I like to bring down the number that I'm dealing with again so I can move it. And now they say to move it to the left, the decimal point, since we're dividing, and we're going to move it to the left however many zeros I see in my value. So there's only 1 0 here, and that's what it says up here. So I'm only moving it one place to the left. I moved it this way because we were dividing. So now my answer says decimal point 3.867, and that would be my answer. So that's what it looks like when we are dividing. We move it to the left. So that's basically it when it comes to dealing with powers of 10 in this case. I will show you another dividing problem that is going to show a fraction. Now the fraction is the same thing as saying division, but I want to show you exactly how to deal with this. So new problem. I had 12.83. And I'm going to be multiplying it by the fraction of 100. So this is saying 12 and 83 hundredths times 100th. So that means that I'm going to, here's Miss Rose's favorite thing to do, change this into a value. You can consider this by saying, also this, these two work together. We're considering the multiplying by a fraction to say divide by the denominator. So the denominator is 100. I'm dividing by that 100. Now I bring down my decimal again. So that's a 12.83. And since we are dividing, we're going to move to the left. So since we're dividing, we're moving that way. And I'm moving it 2 places because I see 2 zeros. So 1, 2. And that's where it goes. Now my answer says 0.1283. And here's my answer. So now you've seen it multiple ways. My favorite way to do it is multiplying, obviously, because it's super simple, but dividing is not so bad either. So this is going to help us with powers of 10 and multiplying and dividing by powers of 10.